Hi, friends. This is Eunice, and welcome to the Journey Home podcast. So, today I wanted to share a little encouragement about compassion and God's compassion for us. Now, I want to share this from three different scriptures as I have been just reading through different scriptures about the Lord's compassion. And so there, if you do a Google search of compassion, I mean, seriously, so many scriptures come up, but I just wanted to read three to try to just get our minds like focused on the Lord and to really see his heart of compassion. So the first one I want to share is Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Now, I love that these are characteristics of the Lord, is compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, and that he wants all of us to be walking in that as his people. So I love that. Isaiah 30:18. Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. Therefore, he will rise up to show you compassion, for the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. And I love the scripture in Isaiah because it shows that the Lord's heart, his posture towards us is to want to show us compassion. Now, Isaiah 49:15 through 16. I love this scripture, probably because I'm a mother of five, but it says, can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me. I love this scripture because it's like, it's true. Those of us who have children is like, we think of our children often. And I think about, man, the Lord's heart is for our kids. And imagine how much we love our kids. If you are a pretty healthy parent, like imagine how much you love your children, and yet God's love for them is even greater. And that blows my mind. And that gives me so much peace as, you know, two of my kids are out of the house now, and one lives in another state, another lives an hour away in the city from us. And I just think about each morning when I pray, I take our youngest daughter to school, and I just pray for each one of my kids in the car, and I pray for them. It comforts me to know that the Lord, he loves my kids more than me, and he is taking care of them. And that is so comforting as a mother. Psalm 51:1. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion, blot out my transgressions. So I just love this theme in the Bible of the Lord's compassion. And so last week I actually had a dream, and in the dream, I realized the Lord was highlighting the theme of compassion in my dream, but in the context of marriage. Because a lot of times, you know, when you see a sad story in the news, when you see, you know, maybe you're scrolling on social media and you see something pop up about like, you know, a ministry that serves orphans in another country, our hearts often well up with compassion, right? But what about when the Lord is talking about compassion for those just right here in our homes, in our immediate circles? Do we have compassion for them? And that's something that the Lord was challenging me in through this dream, is for our spouses. Do we have compassion for them? A lot of times it's easy to grow in compassion, I feel like, for others in other places. But what the Lord was asking me is, Eunice, encourage those around you, and also myself, is can you have compassion for those right in front of you? Your spouse, what they're experiencing. And those of you who follow me might know that a few weeks ago I released a course on marriage. Now, this is a video course where you can, it's like a 12-day journey where you can go with me. I made different videos and I share scripture, I share a story, and I share a prayer that you can pray with me for your marriage. And in that, I really felt like this year the Lord was highlighting marriage to me, the theme of marriage, investing in our marriages. And that's something that I really want to impart to all of you guys listening, is I really believe this is a year that we can take hold of just investing in our marriages in a way that maybe we never have, maybe we never thought to, maybe we never felt like we needed to, but that this would be a year. And can we have love and compassion for our spouses? So in the dream that I'm referring to, I had a dream, and it was like a married couple that was on the edge of divorce. They wanted to get divorced. And for whatever reason, I was there in their home speaking into their marriage and into their family life. And my heart of compassion was really just broken for the children in that household. And in that dream, I remember the Lord saying, like, the wife, she had just been really cranky and mean to the spouse, right? In the dream. And in the dream, though, when she was explaining to me, it's because I've only been sleeping 2 hours a night, Eunice. Like, our baby has been crying at night. This and this has been happening. And in the dream, I was explaining to the husband, is like, hey, like, I know that your wife has been not very kind, but have you considered what it would be like in your life if you hadn't slept for more than 2 hours a night for night to night to night? And it was in that place in the dream that I was like really trying to get the other spouse to see what the other spouse was walking through and to open their eyes to that. And so I know my dream might seem very random to you, but when I woke up, I really felt like the Lord reminding me of one way that He taught me how to walk in more compassion. And that was put yourself in the other person's shoes. You know, so let's say you see your spouse come home and they're pretty prickly, and then you find out how their day went, and maybe they had a bad interaction at work, and all these things is like, as the spouse at home, could you have compassion on what your spouse experienced in the workplace? Or vice versa. Let's say, you identify with that woman in the dream, and or you identify that your spouse might be going through a time. Maybe you just had a new baby and your spouse is a really stretched and taxed to the max. Is like, can you see, like, oh man, what would it be like to not get enough sleep for a year? Like, let's say you have a really terrible sleeping baby who doesn't sleep much. I definitely experienced that in my life. And then it's like, what would that be like? How would that wear on you? And I felt like the Lord was just encouraging me through that dream to have more compassion for my spouse and all that Chris goes through. And I felt like in the dream, though, to encourage other couples is the same thing, is that whatever your spouse might be going through, could we even take a moment today, if you're having a rub with your spouse and being really annoyed at them, is like, could we take some time to think about, Lord, give me your eyes to see what my spouse is going through. Give me your heart of compassion for my spouse, and could you just help me to reflect on you and what you want to do in my marriage, and take time for that, because I really believe that the Lord wants to strengthen your marriage. He is for your marriage. He is for you, and He loves you too. And as we strengthen our marriage, that is really ultimately for us as well. Like, it's not just for our spouse, but it's really for us. It's also for our spouse. It's also for our children. And that's something that I really feel like the Lord has been speaking to me a lot about, is a lot of times, marriage, the marriage relationship, it deeply affects our kids. And that's something that I want to encourage you as a married person out there, is to see, man, we are building a family, a legacy. And the things in my marriage that I pour into, I invest in, it will be in strengthening over the long haul the legacy that we leave for our kids. And in the same way, if we're tearing down that legacy, if we are not working on the problems that are arising in our marriages, we are not proactively looking for healing and things like that, things that would help us in our communication, in our lives, in our deepening of connection. If we are not working on those things, that is also impacting your generations. That is impacting the legacy you are leaving for your kids. And that's something that I really want to encourage parents, because it's interesting. I was coaching someone, and they were asking me, Eunice, like, but like, in the Bible, I know it says like that divorce is bad. Divorce is a sin. But why? And they were helping me unpack it, honestly, because I was asking the Lord about that, and right away the Lord, I felt like, gave me this answer. And it's like, we look, at least when I was younger, I used to look at just the scriptures telling us that divorce is wrong, right? Divorce is a sin, as kind of like a black and white guideline. Sometimes it felt unfair and things like that. But I think the thing that I didn't think about all these years until that moment when that client asked me, is like, why is divorce so bad? Is about legacy, and how when you get divorced, God is also looking upon you in compassion, is how it affects your heart, your spouse's heart. He sees the bigger picture of how it affects our kids' hearts. And he sees that. And that's something that I realized, like, when I was younger, reading the scriptures about like divorce and stuff like that, I didn't consider. Now, again, I just want to make this clear. I'm not talking about situations of abuse. And if your marriage is in a crisis, I really pray that you will get help from a professional counselor. But what I'm actually more addressing is like, the marriages where, you're committed to each other, but there's no spark or flame anymore. There's no friendship. You've grown distant. You've grown disconnected. I'm more talking to that kind of marriage. And so I just want to encourage you guys with that thought, because I feel like, when you see the scriptures, when we see the scriptures, like divorce is not good, divorce is a sin, right? We don't really see the Lord's heart behind it. And I feel like actually his heart behind it is from a place of compassion, because he knows how hard it will be when you get divorced. He knows, he can see how deeply it will impact your children if you choose divorce. And those are things that I want us to consider, because I feel like a lot of times, like, growing up, I just looked at the Bible as like this rule book, like, right? It's all black and white, and this is a rule I have to follow, and this is a rule I have to follow, and this is a rule we need to follow. But what I realized as I grew older is like, wait, why did the Lord write that? Why did he say that? What is his heart behind that? And as we get to know the Lord's heart, and today I want to highlight the Lord's compassionate heart, is we see, it's because he sees that would deeply affect us in negative ways. That would deeply harm our emotional well-being. And those are things that I really didn't ponder that much about when I was younger. And so I see that now. My husband Chris and I, we've worked with tons of young people over the years. And something that I noticed in a lot of people's testimonies is that, like, when they would share their testimony of how they came to Christ, from those who came from divorced homes, a lot of them would start with, my parents got divorced when I was 10, and this is what happened after that. And I realized how traumatizing divorce was for a lot of children. And it was in that place I was like, Now, I have not done a study on this. I'm sure there's studies out there about this, but I'm just sharing from my experience. My heart to your heart is that I was just profoundly impacted by the reality of how much divorce impacted these kids, these young people, as they grew older, their fear of commitment and things like that. And so honestly, that's why I made my marriage course, is I really pray that it would encourage some of you guys to work on your marriage now before you get to the crisis point. And maybe it will stir up thinking in you and prayers in you and hope in you and faith in you that things can shift in your marriage. Not just by applying the things from my course, but also maybe you'll recognize, I could use some more healing in that. And you will pursue professional Christian counseling. Or you'll recognize patterns that you're like, maybe that's not that healthy because I've always thought like that. And maybe I should dig into this more instead of just year after year doing the same thing and it's still not working, And so that is just my heart for you guys. And even if you don't purchase my course, I just pray that wherever you are in your marriage, that the Lord would today even show you his eyes to see your spouse. That you would take time to put yourself in your spouse's shoes and just see what shifts in your heart toward your spouse. If your attitude might shift, your heart might shift, your ideals might shift because you might see from a different lens. And so I really pray that this message and encouragement helps someone out there today. And I really pray a blessing on each one of you guys who are married, that your marriage would be just Christ-centered and flourishing. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week and enjoy the beautiful weather. We have been getting amazing weather here, and I'm so grateful. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.